Spent too much time in California. Now I got that Rona. Gotta be a loner. Staring at my phone. Gotta be a loner.
Gotta be a loner.
What's going on, everybody? This is like week 10? I don't know. 10 or 11, I think, of quarantine. Things are going okay. It's time to do our positivity stretches. And as we stretch, we remember all the positivity that is inside our bodies and radiating out into our positive palms. And we bring our positive palms together in front of our new t-shirt that I just got from my friends over at Superhuman Objects. And you can get one too. They're great. They're my friends. You should get a t-shirt. I didn't have any of that. That all just kind of happened. That's funny. And the sound you're hearing now is the sound of a dog walking on a wooden floor. Hi. Clinkety clank. Anyway, I'm getting an antibody test tomorrow morning. Get an antibody test tomorrow morning to see. I'll wait. I'm getting an antibody test tomorrow morning finally to see if what I had back in February, March was in fact the coronavirus. So that's somewhat exciting. I get to go drive an hour in the car and sit in there and wait until they're ready to take some of my blood to see if I have an antibody, to see if I have antibodies for the coronavirus. Now, there's a lot of talk about antibodies these days, but you know, I don't really understand why people are pointing out the fact that there's no evidence that there is immunity after exposure, after, like, the antibodies don't necessarily do anything. And it's like, well, I mean, we never know that they do anything until we know that they do something. You know? There's no sense of pointing out, like, we don't have that evidence yet, so don't count on it. I mean, it would be totally unprecedented in the world of, like, of viruses and diseases and epidemiology for a person to not develop antibodies from a virus and then have the antibodies not do anything. I mean, they're not always 100% effective, but they do offer some level of immunity usually, and they last for some amount of time. So let's remember that almost all viruses and viral infections function that way. Like, you get exposed, you build up antibodies, the next time's easier, if not even noticeable, because you're immune. I'm not saying you're going to be immune 100%. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm just saying, like, why are we pointing out the fact that, you know, this evidence doesn't exist? Because it might very soon. And a lot of stuff is popping up now. There have been monkey studies where, you know, be it ethically or not, they try to infect monkeys that have antibodies, and they were unable to do so. There's evidence that llama antibodies may offer some protection. You can also grow antibodies. You can grow monoclonal antibodies in rabbits. Like, you can get people, you know, maybe after my test, if it comes back positive, and I have antibodies, I might be able to donate antibodies to people that are actually sick. There are a lot of options with antibodies. So I don't know why people dove into this like, there's no evidence yet. Or there's no evidence, because there's never any evidence until there is evidence. Because that's how facts work. That's how science works. So let's be hopeful that, and it looks like that's happening. I think there is evidence now. It's not totally conclusive, but there is definitely evidence. So, you know, things are starting to get better. I don't know about socially or politically, but you know, medically, things will continue to get better until this is an afterthought. I don't know that we'll recover in a social sense, at least not very quickly, not economically either, but medically, yeah, for sure. I just watched that movie Contagion last night for some reason. You know, we should be really thankful that this virus is actually not as bad as it could be, because it, you know, as we've now seen, it has a pretty relatively low mortality rate, which is good, all things considered. And it really highlights how unprepared we are as individuals and as a population. So I hope that this could be a learning experience and not just make it about me experience and people just trying to take this opportunity to pretend like they're suffering so badly because, they're stuck inside and they can't work their job. And it's not to say that those things aren't important, but there's actual real suffering in the world. And most of us have relatively great lives. So I like to remember that. For me, it's useful. Other people will just say, I know some people very, very well that will just say, well, I don't care about that. Like, it doesn't make my problems go away, and it doesn't. But perspective is important, and it's better that, people are not dying and there aren't body bags and mass graves. Well, there are some in New York City, but anyway, that was delightful. I always do this podcast right out of the shower, so I feel like it's not a very good representation of my hair, which is fine, especially for listening. The audio, I know my hair probably sounds pretty terrible, but if you're watching, this is me. I don't know. I don't plan these introductions. I just kind of talked, and there are more important things to talk about. I mean, not more important than my hair, more important than the pandemic and stuff. So I'm glad I finally got to the hair thing. I definitely wanted to hit that. And yeah, I got a really awesome conversation today. Let's forget about me. Because I just talk and it's probably not that great. But what is good in this episode is the conversation I had with Sean and Taylor from New Zealand Sun Films. They're friends of mine. I've worked with them professionally on a couple projects and had one, and we're going to talk about that, and so I won't get too into it, but we had a project lined up that I had to literally bail on right before this lockdown, and it ended up being the right decision, but it was a little bit of a source of tension not for them, for me personally. I felt guilty, but we talk about their experience. They're still over in Southern California, and they're great people to work with. They're friends. I admire them very much. They're hustlers. They put out a lot of work. They work very efficiently, and I think the best compliment I can give them is that they're just really nice people. They make you feel comfortable. They make you feel taken care of. They genuinely are interested in people that they work with, and they're just great to talk to, as you'll see. So I'm happy I'm grateful that they took the time out to talk to me. And I hope you like them. And I know you'll like them, but I hope you enjoy the conversation. I'm gonna link to their website and. All of their stuff is on streamable on Amazon Prime. So definitely watch My Alien Girlfriend. I'm in that one. You'll see me. But all their other stuff as well. They've got a bunch of great projects. I think Sean says in the episode that they have 9. And maybe, I know they have a new one, a Devil in a Dress. I think that's out, but I'm not 100% sure. I should have checked right before I did this. I know it was on its way out. But they've got other ones, Mojave Sisters, David and Olivia, American Bikini, just a bunch of really cool projects. I know that I'll probably forget some if I try to name all of them, but go look them up. I'm going to link to it, and they're all good. They're all really good. And if you want to see me, again, watch My Alien Girlfriend, and that whole thing is great. So go check them out. Check out Superhuman Objects if you want some cool t-shirts. They're making cool stuff in the quarantine and selling it. And check out a conversation with Sean and Taylor from New Zealand Sun Films.
All right. So this is the thealoneaviruspodcast. I'm here with Sean and Taylor of New Zealand Sun Films, which friends of mine that I've worked with in the film industry a couple of times, and they were nice enough to come on here, talk to me. And
hey, Jordan.
Hey, thanks for being here, guys.
Great. We're happy to be here.
Yeah. So I like to start with a little bit of sort of like a vibe check, like where you guys are. You're in Southern California, LA area.
Yeah, we're in Redondo Beach, which is just about 50 miles south of downtown.
Cool, perfect. And what does it feel like being there right now?
I think I watch a lot of news because I have more time to watch a lot of news. But I think California in general, besides much like New York, where that really packed in areas are getting hit really hard. I think in our city of Redondo Beach, there was like 53 cases totals. I don't think there's any deaths. And so, but everyone's normally spread out anyway. When I'm talking with people, I always tell them, yeah, we'll get into the car and drive 5 blocks to go to the store. So we always social distance just as out of a habit, unlike maybe if you're living downtown or in West Hollywood.
Sure.
So I haven't seen Taylor. Taylor's 30 years younger than me, so I don't know if his experience has been different.
Yeah, I mean, it's been weird, especially doing what we do. I think making movies and stuff. The sort of obviously everything got put on a hold. So I think that the biggest way that it sort of affected both Sean and myself and you as well, I imagine, is just not being able to do sort of the thing that we love to do. So and just like yourself, we've been sort of finding different ways to make content, in the time of, because writing every day gets very monotonous.
And I don't. For context, we were 1 week into a new show, which Jordan was supposed to be in, and he was sort of the first to clue me in. He gave me a call, and he's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do the show, and then. And I'm sure you had told me this before about what you have your degree in, but it's exactly what's going on. And you told me you're heading back east to lockdown, and you were the first one that said this may be going on for a while, where the public really wasn't getting that vibe at that point.
Yeah, it's interesting talking to you guys about this now, because I remember I left LA on March 11th, and I kind of made a really quick decision to just be like, I was reading the news and there was sort of like a shift, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. The reason I'm here is for work, and I think the work's going to go away and I need to just kind of be with my family. And so I made this really quick decision, and I had a commitment to you guys. I had work, and I have an agency, and I had like a few commitments where I remember driving and feeling like this intense guilt. Like I'm just basically saying goodbye to this. And then I got to a motel that night, and I think I emailed you and a couple other people, and I was like, listen, I made this decision. It wasn't easy. I just had to kind of like put this thing first, and I think it's going to get pretty bad. But at that point, there was no real proof that it was going to get bad, or like this. I had this feeling like the country was going to shut down tomorrow, and I needed to race home, and that was kind of what was driving me. And I was just like, I'm really sorry, but I'm out. And then I kind of felt like a week later, I felt justified in my decision because everybody else kind of got the picture. But yeah, there was a really weird amount of time where I was just like, I can't believe I did that. I hope I did the right thing.
Yeah, and I think we only got about another 4 days of shooting in before the Californians locked everything down. So you were dead on.
Luckily, I mean, not luckily, but no, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But I at least I felt like that decision was validated.
I think it's funny. We often try not to be selfish about things, and I think everyone now has had to not be selfish to a big extent, and just say, it may cost me my job. It may cost me, there's relationships that are failing because they're having to spend so much time together. But there's all sorts of things. I mean, everyone is, has had to sacrifice, even if you weren't affected directly by it.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, Taylor, though, Taylor really did well out of this whole thing.
Okay.
You got to tell your story.
Oh yeah. So this is, and she'll think this is funny me talking about this, but yeah, I've had like either a Bumble or Tinder account like off and on for probably the past year and a half since my last relationship ended. And I hadn't really met anyone that was just like, on the same sort of vibe. And my now girlfriend, who I met on Bumble like about a month ago now, I think she had it for 6 hours, and we met and connected, and yeah, and we were both quarantined, and both the two of us both live with at-risk people, and we're like, we've been. I think there's just one night where it's like, we got to go on a date. We got to go on a quarantine safe date, and so we both sort of safely broke quarantine to meet each other. But yeah, so one good thing came out of it. But yeah, that was definitely sort of like, what do we do? It's like, can't be away from each other, but we can't be with each other. So let's figure out how to do this as quickly as possible.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting, though, is had there not been a quarantine, they may have met a day or two later and not had weeks and weeks of talking and actually getting to know each other first and build sort of a connection, as opposed to just going and having coffee sometime, of which is sort of what Taylor would do a lot. He'd go meet someone for a couple hours, and that was it.
Yeah, and usually you're talking to them like that day, and it's like, oh hey, let's go meet up for coffee tonight. You don't really get to build that sort of I guess intimacy before you actually meet. And then everyone has their guard up when they meet someone new in person for the same time. And by that time, I think the guard was way down. It's like, all right, I know exactly who you are. You know exactly who I am. So now let's just have fun. So
that's cool. I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing the experience of dating in quarantine, and that's awesome. And I know that there's sort of some like memes going around, like, oh, now you have to go back to courting, like you can't meet for some amount of time, and that's. Yeah. I mean, there's some truth to it, right? Like you kind of became comfortable, like for however long you guys were texting or whatever, and then is a whole different experience, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, yeah, there's only so many FaceTime dates you can have before it's like, all right, now we're just driving ourselves crazy. So, and
it's funny how the questions from Sharon and me were like, it wasn't, what does she do? It was, how long has she been in quarantine for? So.
Yeah, and then her family, her mom works in medical billing and that whole world. So her mom was super like, I don't know, it's like you gotta stay. He's not allowed in the house. We can wave to him from the driveway, but that's it. That was fun.
Yeah. But yeah, we've been taking it pretty serious. I mean, literally almost since you left, we've just been doing our little part. And the reality is, it doesn't matter. We can't do what we normally do. So try to find creative ways, whether it's just writing, casting for things in the future. But we're pretty lucky compared to a lot of people. I mean, if you had a hair salon or a job where you only have a couple weeks buffer, maybe, this is devastating.
Yeah, I definitely feel fortunate in that, like, I'm not working, but I'm able to be home with my family, and we're okay, for now. So, yeah, I feel you for that. So I guess you would know this better than I would. What legally you guys are not allowed to shoot? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think just like any other business, we can't be on the streets. Now, I imagine we could be in someone's house and shooting somewhere, but for me, I'm not comfortable with the risk. Like I've been watching all of our actors on Instagram, and most of them have been locked down. But then every once in a while, I see like one just took a trip to another state and then came back after a few days. So for me, we're at least another 2, 3, 4 weeks out for that person before we can, use them. And then even when we do start, I think we'll have conversations between anyone who's in scenes together and make sure they're comfortable with what they did during this time, the people they've come in contact with. Because it really is going to be, I mean, even if we can, it'll be a very personal thing for each actor. Because, when you're acting, there's touching, there's kissing, there's fighting. And so there's physical contact.
Well, even like putting on mics and stuff, it's like you can help by sterilizing equipment and stuff, but there's still, it's like, okay, here you go. I'm going to give you the mic, that type of, that sort of just natural everyday contact you don't even think about when you're filming. Props, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask you guys. So it does feel like the country, for better or for worse, is moving towards opening things up, although somewhat gradually in different phases, and different states are doing their own thing. But I myself am starting to try to cope with the idea of finding a new normal and trying to find safety and comfort in opening up, because there's nothing I can personally do to stop it. So I just wonder what you guys think kind of moving forward in this new context, because obviously, I mean, I want to work. I'm sure you guys want to work, but it's like, it's a new thing to balance. It's just it's going to be a different experience, I think, for everybody. And I'm sure you guys have been thinking about it.
Yeah. Taylor? Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I think my biggest frustration right now is getting accurate numbers about what's happening. And, so, I mean, this is rough, but if you look back, say, 4 weeks ago, they were testing, let's just say, 100,000 people a week, and there was X amount of cases. Then they jumped to, 500,000. Then they're doing 1 million a week. And so the numbers are going up, but that's the only number I'm seeing. I'm not seeing, say, per 1,000, what is the case rate. So I really know where we are, where it is, because I know that in LA, they're really ramping up testing. So the per day cases are going up every day. But there may have been a lot more, even back in the day, they just weren't being tested. So it's hard to plan anything. And I think that's the toughest part, because I really don't know. And even death numbers daily, they're several weeks behind, from when they contracted it. So it's really tough to gauge when, I think, is the most frustrating part. And then, of course, I'm 50, Taylor's 30. We're in two different risk zones. My parents are in their 80s. Whole different ball game. So there's all that to consider.
I'm 20.
What's that?
I'm 20, not 30.
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
what I thought. But
yeah, you're 30 years
I
older
know.
than me. So, but again, just total different risk group. And then even how it behaves out here. They're saying that Californians could have had it a long time ago, but it never took hold because of the sort of warm winter we had. And again, because we're more spread out than a place like LA. So I think it's going to be tough because it's not going to be fair. Iowa may have a whole different situation going where New York's just not going to be allowed to for much, much longer. And so, and I think people will get jealous. You see it on the news, like, well, how come they're out at the 4th of July barbecue and, we can't even go to the park. Yeah. So it's, I think, and I honestly believe everyone's trying. When governors report numbers, they're looking out. They've got to err on the side of caution, and they're getting new information all the time because they've never dealt with it, So it's, and I think you said something interesting earlier. It's the first time since I've been alive that the world has been involved in something versus us versus them, or like a 9/11 sort of had a very specific geographic thing. But this is everyone around the world. So my daughter literally just got into New Zealand right when they were shutting down, and so her first 2 weeks there were in lockdown. But because they've only got 5 million people there, they were able to just shut down the country, keep everyone at home for a month, and now they're opening up quite quick because they're almost non-existent, like 100 cases or something. So it's every country's different. I was speaking with an actor from Denmark, and they had sort of a similar thing where with 5 million people, you can react different and test different than you can with 340 million.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
those are my thoughts.
Oh yeah. And please, Taylor, if you've got.
No, I've sort of been seeing more on a sort of a online front, especially with people that I've seen who are really, really getting frustrated having to stay at home with their families. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and then there's the protests and stuff, which I actually saw some down in Torrance Beach, where everyone was out there with their signs, and I even saw a few police officers out there with them holding signs. It was very unusual. Yeah. One person.
But like, you know, our beaches got shut down, and I don't know. Like they've opened up the parks, but not the beaches. I think people social distance more at the beach if they're going to lay out with the people they're with than at parks. And at parks, you interact, you frisbee, the kids are on the jungle gyms. And then I think there's always the idiot factor where in any situation, you'll see the footage and the majority of people on the beach are all sort of sitting far apart. And then you got one group of people who just aren't, and they, of course, it's very obvious. And you sort of have to then shut it down for everyone because, you know, like if, you know, Taylor and I, we go on walks and stuff, but, you know, it's the other thing that's different is like you're walking down the street and you see someone coming and there's that moment and they're like, okay, which one of us is going to cross the street? Which it's a weird thing. Or in a grocery aisle, same sort of thing. Like you see someone and there's just this, all right, maybe I should just turn and go the other way so everyone's feeling comfortable.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's a strange time.
But I think now, do you think we're on the downside of it now?
No, I don't. I think that we're going to act like we are as a country, but I definitely don't. So in public health, there are sort of a few tenets for epidemiology and like how you react and treat an epidemic, right? Like, and the first one is testing. The second one is finding your positive cases and quarantining them. And then the third is contact tracing. So you see who those positive cases are coming into contact with. And then you can isolate all those people. And then the virus just essentially has nowhere to go after a certain amount of time. And if I felt like I was under the impression that we were kind of do this shutdown thing so that we could get a handle on building that infrastructure and setting those things up so that we could reopen and we would have more control over the situation. But it just doesn't seem like that this time was used effectively. So we flattened the curve, but if those elements are not in place as we start to reopen, it's just going to be explosive again until it has nowhere to go on its own natural accord, which is not a good thing, you know. But so I think that we could ignore the fact that we didn't do those things and start to reopen because people are frustrated and want to work and do these things. And it's essentially just throwing a certain percentage of people to the wolves, I think, because this thing is super contagious. And though the mortality rate is low, thankfully, it's going to be everywhere.
Yeah. And then there's the flip side of the people who is affecting their health in other ways because they're not getting treated. We have a friend who's a plastic surgeon, and we were texting last night, and he said he usually does about one amputation a month. He goes, I'm doing one or two a day now. He goes, it's shocking. Now most of these are older people with diabetes. They are not taking care of themselves. So they're not going to their doctors. And I think they're letting it get to a state beyond when they normally would just hop in the car and go get something looked at. Yeah. And then, so I think on that side, we got to figure out, how do we deal with that and just make sure people aren't, you got something you need to get checked. You feel comfortable going to your doctor so it doesn't become life-threatening. So again, they're all huge problems that no one 2 months ago was thinking about.
I know. So did you guys see that article or statement that came out of SAG a few days ago?
Yeah, Connor had posted a thing about it, saying until there's a virus, until there's a vaccine. Yeah.
I was wondering how, because I know you guys generally do non-union projects, but I mean, SAG sort of sets a standard, I guess, in some ways. I don't know if you guys even pay attention or if it matters, but I was wondering how that. Go ahead. Yeah,
I mean, they're like a governor as well. Like they've got to err on the side of caution, and so I'm sure that and they're actually a perfect example because so many people in SAG don't work, and so many people in SAG do restaurant jobs and other jobs to help pay the rent. It's really a double hit for them. I mean, I could just imagine the frustration where you've lost your bartending job that supports you while you act in between gigs, and now they're saying we don't even know when. I mean, I think maybe they need to get smart. Maybe you film in New Zealand, and when they open up, or you film in places where they spend so much money on movies. The entire cast and crew goes to a location and has to isolate for 2 or 3 weeks before they can start shooting. They can fit that in the budget, and just you live in that bubble, and everyone's tested, and people don't exit that bubble. That would be my thought, to be able to at least keep things going. But as soon as, it just takes one person to break that, and then in that sort of group, it could spread really quick. So I think
they can do it. I'll tell you, I didn't even allow cell phones. It's like you can stay here. It's
no, absolutely. I mean, they could. They would just have to also be the police to make sure that they'd have to be filming in locations where no one could get out. They can't go to the local bar at night and just contract something. But till there's a vaccine, that's worrisome. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how like Atlanta does and how Texas does here in the next few weeks. And we could see everything locking down real tight again, in the next couple of weeks, or not. I'm not knowledgeable enough to know. I'm just trying to stay real aware.
Yeah, same. That's the best I can do. I certainly don't know what's going to happen, but I'm hoping for the best.
But with knowledge, I mean, I'm sure everything you hear, you absorb in a different way than we do.
I'm consuming a lot of information, and sometimes I feel like I don't know what to think at all. I'm just like looking through articles every single day, and it's depressing. And then sometimes there's something hopeful. But
now, what's some of the stuff that you watch to cheer yourself back up? If any, like what shows and what things have you been watching to be the distraction?
So that's funny you asked, because I was just recommending a podcast to some of my friends this morning. Are you familiar with the comedian Theo Von?
Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
He does this podcast, and I think he puts it out once or twice a week. I think once a week now. And it's the only podcast that I laughed out loud a couple of times today. And it's just like such a welcome distraction. I'm obsessed with comedy and just what comedy is, because I still don't know, but I feel like every once in a while I can have some grasp of what it is, and then it's ethereal and goes away. But comedy is sort of everything, and not just consumption, but like I'm trying to write and make things that are funny, because it feels pretty good right now. But as far as TV shows, I've been watching the Midnight Gospel show on Netflix. That's sort of amazing. Have you heard of that one?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's it's like a psychedelic cartoon / podcast. It's just like really wild, and it'll take you out of whatever you're feeling at any given time. It's very intense. And then I watched the newest season of Ozark when that came out. That was pretty good. And then
not uplifting, but it was good.
It was good. It was definitely engaging. Yeah. What about you guys? What are you watching?
It's been a different. I've gone through all the Star Wars movies again, so I don't. I'm sort of running out of things. I've seen probably Parks and Rec, The Office, and that '70s show like all the way through, maybe 3 times each. So it's just finding something that's funny and engaging and sort of can also at the same time sort of inspires some of the stuff that currently working on, just to stay motivated and stuff. So
yeah, one thing we noticed, because I think we have 9 shows on right now, and of those 9 shows we can track and see what's doing well, and definitely the comedies have been doing better than anything else. Where the other ones are going down, the comedies are going up, and I think it's just for that exact reason. It's mindless, it's fun, it's just entertainment, and people are looking just for that release of not thinking about everything else.
And people should definitely watch My Alien Girlfriend, which is out now, and you'll see me and Taylor. You're great in that movie. Your acting is so good.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
yours. I was literally just talking to someone about it yesterday after we had done the live stream, just about your character constantly trying to get with the other bridesmaid, and just those comedic moments which are so hilarious. It's really fun.
Because Taylor mentioned it in the live stream, and then in the Instagram one I just posted, we actually added a clip in of you.
Awesome!
So yeah, but that's the thing of always when you're doing a character, it's you're just one of those actors. You're just easy to work with. You always bring something interesting. You don't have to tell you anything. You just read it and you bring it, and it's always right, which makes it really easy. Then, and Ken's similar in that way, where you just sort of let them go do their things, and they bring it. So, this isn't going too long, and you get back to LA, or we come your way and make something out there when this is all.
Well, I do have a fantastic country location if you guys ever need to come here. I'm just out in the woods with nobody. I ran into a bear the other day.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, not like physically ran into it, but like ran past it, and it was just staring, and it was kind of scary. But this is the real deal country out here.
So how many people have you been in contact with? Are you literally
one?
Wow.
Yeah. And then from a distance, family members occasionally, but just I didn't even leave the house or like the area around my house for 7 weeks until earlier this week. So it's different. I'm glad that I'm not in LA. I just feel like it would be hard to be in a room in an apartment for this long.
And there's no reason to be here. I mean, really, there's a lot of actors who have gone home. Some have gone home to other countries, and they may be a long time before they come back. But there's nothing. You're not missing anything because there's nothing happening. So it's better you're with the people that you want to be with.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I'm super grateful to be here right now and have the means that we have. It's nice. Oh shit. 10 minutes. Apparently.
And just on the flip side, my wife has not stopped working. She works in aerospace, and they literally they didn't let him go, but they, from working from home, probably 3/4 of the workforce, and then the people that they could set up 15, 20 feet apart in this huge facility, that's what they do. And everything is Zoom, and they're half their companies, well, the majority of the companies in New Zealand, and so they were used to doing a lot of teleconferencing anyway, but because there's classified stuff, they can't do a lot of it from home. And so the computers and the servers and everything they work on have to be there. But when
you're launching satellites, there's a lot of hush. Like I get it. It's like it's funny because even sometimes we'll watch the live streams of the rockets going up, and they'll even say, and we're not allowed to tell you what's on this one.
Sometimes they can't even show the deployment. Like they'll get it up, and soon as they're about to deploy, they'll have to cut away because whatever they're putting up is private.
Wow.
But they test them every day coming in, and not test them, they take their temperature. But they've had, and I want to say there's maybe 40 people working there total now out of several hundred. Not a single case. Everyone's been doing their job to try to limit it's either the home or work, and so far no cases, and because one case shuts the entire business down and could literally put 400, 500 people out of work. So
so there's incentive to take it seriously.
Yeah, and like they were buying them lunch for the first month, so the lunch would be delivered. They wouldn't even have to leave the building to go to lunch. But then someone had to deliver that food. That's what I always thought. So I have a sister who works as a checkout person in New York, and she says, they have plexiglass now and this and that and blah, blah, blah. We wear gloves and masks. And I said, but they put the thing on the conveyor that they've touched. Now you touch it and you put it in the bag. She just said, yeah, but I'm wearing gloves. I'm like, no, but then the next person comes and you touch all their food and put it in a bag. There's got to be huge potential for that, or maybe not. Maybe that's not how it spreads. I don't know, but it's something I thought about for sure.
So we've been doing like giant 2-week grocery shop shops. And then since we've got all this extra time, I just stand outside and bleach every single item. And it's like, what else am I doing right now? And like, it's probably very low odds of that transfer actually happening, but it's like, why not?
Yeah.
Just eliminate that one thing. So I do have a couple questions that I ask everybody, and I want to get to them before this thing cuts off. This is my first podcast with 3 separate things, so Zoom is actually being, putting that limit on us, which sucks. But so the first question is, if not for quarantine, what do you think you guys would be doing today, Friday?
We'd probably we'd be shooting the series, and you'd probably be here with us.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Great. What good do you guys think is going to come out of this whole situation?
I think that a lot of things are going to change, especially in sort of the entertainment world, both through distribution, only because a lot of things have started to change, of course, with movie theater. I think the movie theater industry might hurt a bit, or they might see a huge boost once people are going to be dying to go back into the movie theaters. But like, there's a whole controversy with Universal and the movie theater chains, like, because Universal's like, oh, we'll just release our movies right to home, on demand. And the movie theater chains were like, we're not going to forget that. And then they banned them from releasing their movies in the theaters. But that's a bad thing. But good thing, hopefully once this is all cleared, everything will go back to normal, and people will be excited to actually get out there and start working again. So hopefully it won't take long for everything to get back to a good place.
I just think real quick, I think we'll be more prepared now than we ever were with PPEs, with shutting down things the second, better to have had a 3-week travel ban and locked everything down and then be able to open back up. So if anything good comes of it, the world will be very aware and be ready to act much quicker than they were, because everyone was so unsure.
Absolutely. Great. I always kind of brace myself asking this question, but what do you guys fear most coming out of this?
For me, it would just be my parents. They're both in their 80s, both doing pretty good, but it's just something that, all their years of living pretty good might not matter. So it just that, and they've been great, isolating and do what they need to do. So, Taylor?
This is, serious but not serious. Only because I've heard a lot of stories. I think there's going to be a lot of confrontations, especially with people who have been talking to multiple people on online dating apps at the same time. And now they're going to have to either choose, or there's going to be a whole bunch of blow-ups with all these people with side hustles to their main relationships. And I've heard a lot of stories of there's going to be a lot of confrontation coming up once this is all over.
And there's going to be a lot of babies in 9 months.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's going to be
a lot of material to write about, most likely.
Yep.
And then, so the last question is, let me think how I want to ask it. Are you guys kind of like banging your heads against the wall at this point, or do you think you're ready to just cruise as long as possible?
I mean, for me, I feel lucky because we're healthy, and I know this will go away and life will get on. So I'm personally lucky that it hasn't affected anyone in our family that we know of, and hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I think I feel, more than sort of I'm very anxious to get back to work. There's also a level of guilt. I think I feel of not working. There's just that weird thing of I know I should be doing this, but I can't right now. That. But also, it's sort of a testament to, okay, I know what I want to be doing, and I know that I'm doing the thing that I want to be doing, because I can't do it right now, and it's very frustrating. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think that's actually super impressive that you know exactly what you want to be doing at 20, because I did not, and I wish I had. But
no, very and very fortunate for me to be doing it with my father, which is very cool.
Of course. Well, thanks so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely,
Taylor.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jordan, and be safe. And sooner or later, we'll see you, and I'll get back to work. And these will be the days we talk about.
That's right.
Spent too much time in California. Now I'm in Pennsylvania.